Hey, it's Tom.
And I'm excited to be talking about 9 fail-proof methods for finding hot private label product ideas and without having to worry about what's happening on Facebook right now. I want to talk through this tutorial, which is basically, we're going to be looking at 9 different ways to find hot private label product ideas, looking at different ways you can think about going into a niche. And I also mention this without worrying about what's on Facebook, because I was an early adapter with Facebook when I moved to Asia. A few people I knew had Facebook accounts and they were all playing this game called Mob Wars. And it was a viral game. I don't know if you can remember that, if you've ever played a viral game on Facebook, but this is when Facebook first started, or the early years of Facebook. And a few people I knew were playing this game, so I opened an account solely because they sent me an invite by email. So I signed up and started playing the game. And lo and behold, I still have the same Facebook account to this day, years and years later. Although these days, it's very rare I log into Facebook whatsoever. Because if I want to speak to someone I know, then I pick up the phone, or I send an email, or I chat to them using Skype. Because I prefer to chat to people I know that way. I don't really care for looking at the pretty pictures of friends of friends of friends who have posted pictures on Facebook today. So what I want to just point out before we go into the research is not to be distracted with things that are not really important to the growth of your business. When you're creating a business, you need to be focused and you need to get the research done to be able to earn your first 10K a month. You know, once you've got your 10K a month coming into the bank, then you can go onto Facebook, talk to who, post pretty pictures on Facebook if that floats your boat. For me, I prefer to not log into Facebook unless it's to do with advertising. If I'm using Facebook for advertising, that's acceptable for me. What I'm trying to say is you shouldn't need to be distracted with the bright, shiny objects that are flying around. You know, this private label blueprint system is proven to work, but it's going to take a little bit of time to implement and set up. You just need to keep following the system and implementing it. Okay, and eventually it's going to pay off for you. So if we try and ignore the bright, shiny objects that surround you every day and keep implementing a system until it works for you, then keep implementing that same system over and over again. So with that out of the way, the cheat sheet, we're going to discuss 9 different ways to start gathering your information about what's selling right now to give you inspirational new ideas. And I made a note here, if you already have an e-commerce business or if you're already selling physical products, it wouldn't make sense for you to start a brand new business with unrelated products at this point. You may as well look at the business you've got. If there's any products that you might be able to introduce a similar product with your own brand, or if there's any new products you can bring into your business that you can private label and start creating a presence with your branded products there. Another thing to mention is that copycats are doomed to fail before they even begin. And it's important because anyone who knows how to private label can find a product that's selling well, source that same product, and put a brand and a logo on an identical product. Although doing this is not going to be the best and most profitable way to use this business model. By all means, when you first start, you may have 1 or 2 products like that. And it's okay to overlap other products or complement them even, or even piggyback on those products by introducing your own better product with a unique twist. So the whole point of the private label system is to develop your own brand, but with your own unique products that will attract buyers for a different reason. Because I've found that if you can enter a market with a product that's aligned with other products that are popular, you're not going to be stepping on other people's toes. You're not going to be attracting attention or attracting the wrong attention. For example, if you copy an existing product like for like, almost identically, and you just put your own brand and logo on it with nothing else changes, and you're not trying to market it in a different way, then you'll be picking battles with established competitors, and you'll be trying to pull customers away from any brand loyalty that might already exist. Or instead, for example, you could introduce a product by aligning it with the existing products. In other words, slot into the market in a unique way without trying to steal other sales, but by encouraging additional sales in that market. So you're basically adding value to the market. You know, other competitors or would have been competitors, they'll want to be making friends with you if you do this, instead of wanting you out of the game. And later on, you'll have a much easier time trying to find partners to joint venture with, so you can both mutually benefit later on. So it will be in your own interest to try to make your products as unique as possible, as well as adding value with your own branding, so you can slot into a market, not just with a new logo. So another thing I wanted to mention is, if it's your first range, your first products that you're going to be private labeling, try and go for something that's not seasonal, because then you can monitor your progress and you won't be flooded with orders at one season and have none the next season. As you're steadily implementing this system, if you can look for non-seasonal products, that might be beneficial. Then you can see the progress gradually as you're implementing the system. Oh, and another note to mention is that if you've already looked at the product score calculator tool training in this module, and basically that will eliminate the need for thinking about which products are the best products to sell, because it takes into consideration all the factors that you'll need to determine whether it's going to be a good product to launch or not. And also the Choose Your Niche tutorial shows you some ways to leverage your own natural advantages. However, in this video, I'm going to talk about some other ways, tricks and tips even, for finding products and niches that are hot and in demand right now. Okay, some of these methods you might be already familiar with, or they might be totally new to you. Either way, I think it's good that we spend a few minutes on each method. It's always a good reminder as well. Even myself, sometimes if I'm creating a new brand or a new range of products, sometimes it's far too easy to think, well, you're an experienced marketer, you're experienced at building brands. There's no need to go back to the research fundamentals, but that's a big mistake. Even if you are an experienced marketer, it's still find it useful to go back to the fundamentals when you're trying to introduce new products. Okay, so we'll just quickly go over these 9 methods. The first method is to use Google's keyword planner tool to identify related keywords and find the most searched keywords. So I think in another module we used the example of brownies. We saw a brownie maker machine, and we typed brownie into the home and kitchen search results of Amazon, and it gave us a list of other related keywords or commonly used search terms on Amazon. And these will be categorized by the most popular at the top. Although almost all of these keywords, in fact all of them, will be useful and will have a search volume on them on Amazon. Okay, but this machine may have been promoted with other keywords also, not only brownie pan, or I think they looked at brownie maker, so there might be other keywords that are being used that we're not sure of or haven't thought about. So we can use the Google Keyword Planner to help us with that. So if you head on over to the Google Keyword Planner and log into the account, you can enter some of the suggestions from Amazon into the Google Keyword Planner and get some other ideas. If you follow the process within this cheat sheet, you'll be able to obtain other suggestions from Google for related keywords. And here's a list of keywords that I picked out. Here's a list of ideas I got. So we've got gluten-free brownies, healthy brownies, brownie bites maker, electric brownie maker, brownie bar maker, and the list goes on and on. We've also got cupcake pan, so the product on Amazon may have been promoted using cupcake maker as well. Google will offer you a list of related keyword groups, and you can go through these groups to pull out some of the keywords that might be related to the product that you're trying to promote. These keywords can also give you an idea of how to enter a market. So in this example, I've used the brownie maker, and some of the keywords I was offered was gluten-free brownies. So with that in mind, would there be a niche market available for gluten-free baking for kids? Could you develop a brand around gluten-free baking for kids? I think you could. I think you could also sell a brownie baking machine with gluten-free recipes in the package. And you could even develop a whole new Home Depot brand for gluten-free brownie baking. So I hope you can see how we're using this keyword tool to build up a picture of potential niche markets that you could enter with your own unique product. Okay, so that's one way of how to find other keywords that can help you promote a product or even find more product, even to enter the market with a unique brand or a unique twist on the product. Okay, the second method is to use eBay Pulse. And it used to be called eBay Pulse. It's now called Popular at eBay.com. So here's the link in the cheat sheet. And this has been out a long time, eBay Pulse. It's been updated recently, and you can still use it, so why not use it? Okay, you can dig down into the categories, and it will show you all the common search terms that are currently being used on eBay under each market. So in this example, I've clicked on the health and beauty market, and it's given me a full page of keywords that are hot right now on eBay. Can that give you ideas for developing a new product, or an idea of where you should be looking to develop your own product? I think it can. You can also search best-selling products located in other countries. And this is one thing I always do. So if you go over to eBay and click the advanced search button, you can look for products in categories by selecting the location as for products only located in other countries. And you can go through a whole list of countries. So you can then see a list of products that are popular in other countries that you might be able to introduce into your local market or into other countries. Now, this is something I always do, because it is a worldwide business after all, and I spend a lot of time traveling between my home country in the UK to Asia. I spend a lot of time in Asia. In fact, I spend more time in Asia now than I do in the UK. And it's one of the reasons I look for products that are popular in other countries to be able to introduce those products into new markets. For example, a product that might be selling well in Brazil might not have yet been introduced in the UK. Or a product that's selling well in Japan might not have yet been introduced on a large scale in the United States. And it might have been a coincidence, but an example, I just went over to the Amazon homepage as I was creating this report. And lo and behold, on the homepage of Amazon, this is prime real estate. Amazon are obviously advertising their own brand Kindle product, but directly underneath there, they're advertising the ultimate in slow cooking machine from South Africa. So, and this is prime advertising estate on the Amazon web store. So, you know, if Amazon think it's good enough to introduce products from other countries into new markets, you know, then that's good enough for me as well. And that's something I've been doing for a long time. And it was just a coincidence. I went over to the Amazon.com website and saw this slap bang on the first page. Okay, so that's a great example. And this strategy works in any category, in any niche. Basically, introduce a popular product from one market into another marketplace. And that becomes a new idea then for the new market. And that can mean a lot of dollars for you if you're the one introducing the product. Okay, the next method for finding products to sell is the no-brainer method, which is basically using the Amazon bestseller list. You go over to Amazon, click the link, and it will show you the top 100 best-selling products for every category. Okay, so here you can see the top 100 in the beauty category on the screen right now. This is the first page, so you can browse through those. But you've got to watch it for the number of reviews that each of these products has. Because, again, you don't want to be introducing a product like for like if these products have got a lot of reviews, because how are you going to catch up? How are you going to take on that product if it's already got a stronghold of 400 or 500 reviews? Okay, so as a reminder, use the product scorecard calculator tool that we've already been through in this module to determine all the competing factors. Okay, but certainly look at these bestseller lists to find ideas how you can introduce your own complementary product or a better product, or tap into the popularity of existing products. Okay, so that's another method. Another method is to add products to a cart to monitor sales on Amazon. So it's a little secret trick this, that if you go into Amazon and you see a product that's interesting and you want to find out more about how many it's selling, you can click the add to cart button and Amazon will tell you how many products are available. Okay, and then just leave that page open, go away for a little few hours, come back to the cart, refresh the page. Amazon will then show you how many products are remaining. So you can determine the sales turnover for each product by using this little trick. Okay, another way is to use independent website bestseller lists, or their most popular lists. Just like Amazon have the top 100 bestsellers, and a lot of independent websites all have these bestseller lists or most popular item lists. So as an example, I just went over to the Qzx909 website. They have a little link near the bottom of the page that says check out the top rated product in these categories. Now you've got diet, protein, energy, vitamins and herbs. So you can click any of these categories and see what's hot over at GNC. What are the best products? So this is the vitamins category. So you've got here the best, most popular product at the moment on GNC. In the vitamins category is the kids gummy multivitamins, teen multivitamins, women's ultra mega 50 vitamins, and the list goes on. Okay, so independent websites that are popular and also a good way of finding good ideas. Okay, another method is to use affiliate networks to find popular programs. So one of the ways, you can go over to the ClickBank Marketplace and you can select from all their categories, and if you search by the highest gravity, which is basically the conversion rate of the affiliate program, this will show you what affiliate programs are making the most sales right now. And you can dig down into different categories. So I click the green products category, instantly got a list of high gravity products that have been sold in the green products category. Okay, so this will tell me that if I'm in the green products category, this will tell me what kind of products are being sold and really hot right now. Okay, so you can also use affiliate networks to find hot products. Another way is to browse magazines to find unique niches and lucrative products. If there's a magazine out for a subject, it's guaranteed to be a market for that magazine. I mean, who in their right mind would introduce a magazine without knowing that there's already an established market? Okay, so if you don't want to visit the store to look through magazines, you just go over to magazine.com and look at all the thousands of magazines that are available on there. I just looked in the cooking, food and beverage category and I clicked, I think it was the third or fourth page, and there's hundreds of pages to go through. And even on this page you've got things like gourmet food for travellers, American cake decorating, winemaking. Okay, and another category, I clicked on the health and fitness category. On the second page, I just at random, okay, there's a ton of niches on here. You've got vegetarian, yoga, pilates, natural health, backpacker fitness, healthy pregnancy, muscle development, etc. Alright, and these are all on one little page, all these different niches. So, I mean, look at that, backpacker fitness. Who would have thought that there's a magazine for backpackers who are interested in fitness? Well, I wouldn't have thought unless I found it on the magazine.com website. So it may be a lucrative niche, but it's just an example of, you know, how you can target obscure niches or lesser thought about niches to be able to make you at least 10k a month. Okay, and if these niches don't float your boat, then simply find one that does, and you just keep researching until you do find one that you're interested in. Okay, and the final method for finding ideas is to begin pairing your ideas with suppliers. And you can just go over to the Alibaba.com website. That's one of the main directories for suppliers worldwide. You can also search on Google for suppliers, but Alibaba has all the manufacturers in one place, so that's a good starting point. And in the next module, we will definitely look at the whole process of finding suppliers, getting suppliers to work with you, etc., etc. But just for now, just to get you started, start looking at this Alibaba.com website. To start looking for products that are currently being sold that might give you some ideas of how you can pair those products with your own ideas. Okay, so I'd advise you to go through this cheat sheet for finding a suitable niche and suitable products that you can start a brand and develop. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Okay, so here I am. I'm looking at my screen, and what I've got open here is Google Trends. Now, you may or may not have heard of Google Trends. It used to be called Google Insights. But if you type into your Google search engine, just type the word trends, and you will see this website. And basically what it does is you can type any word into this website, and it will show you the historical popularity of that term or whatever you type in the search box. So this is really useful if you're choosing a new market or a new niche or a new product, and you're going to be committing time to trying to sell that product and develop a brand around that product, or even just private label one single product, it's a good idea to check firstly that that product is actually in a growing market. And what I mean by that is that the demand for that product is actually on the rise. It's increasing rather than decreasing. And we can use Google Trends to show us exactly this information, because it's a lot easier to make sales in a market that's trending upwards than a market that's trending downwards. Obviously, a market that's trending downwards, sales are going to drop off eventually. So, two categories I've got open here in Amazon is the kitchen and dining and the hunting and fishing category. So, I'm just going to check two markets out here. So first of all, I'm going to check the kitchen and dining. I'm going to just choose one. I'm going to choose a niche category from the top of my head. I'm going to put home baking. So if I want to develop a product or a brand that's in the home baking category, we can see the interest over time here, going back to 2004, 2005. So this market is definitely a trending market. Well, it's evened out here for the last, since 2000, you could say 2011. It's been pretty even across the board, so it's not actually a growing market. It has been growing since 2004 up to 2012, but then after 2011, 2012, it's kind of remained stable. So these are search terms that people are typing into Google, home baking, and obviously it's going to give you some kind of an identification what this market is generally doing. So home baking is probably a good category to go into, but it's not on the increase. It's not on a big steep curve upwards. And if we scroll down here, the regional interest, obviously the United States, Australia, UK, India, it would tell us here some regions that are quite popular for this category. But yeah, you can certainly use this. Again, down here, related searches, it's going to give you indication of some good keywords in there, or some ideas of good products that you can use. So there's some other keywords here that might be useful. But the good thing about this, we can actually compare categories. So from Amazon then, the hunting and fishing category. Now one example I'm going to use throughout this course is the preppers market, the prepping. That's obviously a huge market at the moment. I haven't entered it into Google Trends yet, but I can imagine that right now as I make this video, the trend has been increasing dramatically. Let's just try prepper. Now we could use another term, prepping or preppers. So there's been a huge spike there, and it's dropped off, and there's another huge spike. So it's kind of up and down this market. Now let's put home baking back in here. I entered it into the top instead of the comparison table. But as we can see, home baking is going to be a huge category. You know, lots of people are baking at home. But the preppers category, if you'd have got into the market around here and you were an authority, or you had an authoritative product on the marketplace around this point, look at the huge increase. Look at the huge increase upwards. If you had a product on the market here and at the right time, I'm sure you would have been very happy with your results from that product. That's if you had an authoritative product in the marketplace. But right now, it's I mean, you could argue that the demand is still around about the same level as home baking, and there are huge spikes there. Now we could just put another word in here. Let's just try and use plural. Preppers. And let's see what that returns. So again, preppers, it's following the same trend as prepper, but obviously the spike is much higher. Yeah, and there's still even spikes now. So, but it doesn't show the nice curve upwards, even though this is probably still a great market to get into right now. But obviously, if you got in the market earlier on, that would have been a good time. But obviously, today is still a good time if that's a market you're interested in. I'm going to remove preppers because that's making our graph very small. So let's try and think of another market. I do know of a market that did decline, so let me type that in. Sudoku. So this is a market that declined after 2006. There was a huge spike upwards, very popular indeed, and since 2006 to 2014 it's just been on a steady decline. So obviously if you were in the business of supplying Sudoku products or books around this time, you'd have been very happy. But after this tipping point here, you know, it's just downhill. So it would have been pointless really trying to make this your sole business around this time. Okay, so it's good to use Google Trends. Try a few different search terms. If you see the opposite graph of something increasing, then that's really good. Obviously these terms, home baking and prepper, they're also good to use. The Sudoku is still obviously a massive market, but it's trending downwards. It's obviously trending downwards. So this is just a useful tool for you to use when you're considering developing a brand. You'll be putting considerable time and effort into doing that. So this is just something I use, and it might be useful to you. Hi, my name's Tom Freeman, and in this presentation and short video today, I'm going to be talking to you about how to brand your own private label products. And this video is all about the brand, all about creating the brand. And basically we're going to be talking about how to build a valuable asset, which is your brand, that you can profit from for years or sell on as a valuable business simply by building your own brand. So this is what we're going to discuss in this video today. Now, before I get into the presentation, and just a quick overview about brands, and just to try and align our thinking really, because your branded product is never simply just a product. And this is what we want to be going into today, because I can tell you now that most entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs and new business owners will think of their product simply as a way to make a profit from selling the actual product itself. Okay, so we all like that. We all like making a profit from selling the products. And most people think like this. Although if you want to stay ahead of the curve, you've got to be willing to change your mindset just a little bit. Okay, and what I mean by that is that when you begin to private label and encompass products into your own brand, your products will become much more than simply a way to make a profit on the initial sale. Your own brand products become a way for you to get your brand message out there. Okay, so your brand is an advertisement. When you sell a branded product, yes, you can make a profit, but not only that, your product then becomes an ad for your brand. So you're selling your branded product, and once it's sold, your product is still advertising your brand. And if this wasn't the case, I mean, what would be the point of branding your product in the first place? You know, if it wasn't any use, you may as well sell someone else's brand. So the reason we actually brand products is to create an advertisement and an attraction around the brand. And you want to be selling your branded, let's call it a widget or a product, to attract repeat custom and to build a loyal group of brand followers. Build a community around your brand. To put this in perspective, take a look around your house right now or wherever you are. Think about a recent purchase that you made for your house. Think about maybe the food brands that you buy. What brand of appliance do you buy? And what brand of clothing do you buy? Now, you might not prefer any particular brand, or you might not think so, but after you've thought of these brands, think to yourself, why did you buy that particular brand? Even if you can't think of a reason. You might say, well, I purchased some food from Walmart. It was a food product, and it wasn't because it was a Walmart brand, it was because it was lower cost than any of the other products. Although if you think about it, this in itself is an ad for Walmart that's shouting out and screaming that we're the best value in town. You might not have thought, well, I'm going to buy this brand because it's the lowest cost in town, but actually that's what they want you to think when you think about the Walmart brand. Now the problem is that neither you nor I are Walmart, so instead of being the lowest cost or cheapest product in town, we need to think about how we can private label products and develop a theme that differentiates your brand from the rest of the other brands in your chosen niche. And ideally, you don't want to try to win your market position by being the cheapest in town. I can think of many reasons why, but the obvious reasons are that unless you really are called Walmart, then you probably won't be the cheapest in town for very long. Not only that, when you sell at low costs, you're going to have to work so much harder to make anything near to a decent profit. And this is why committing time to researching your unique selling point or USP to develop a unique position in your niche is so important. To define your USP, that's your unique selling proposition. Now, there's a brand development worksheet in this course that you can download and use that to complete as you're working through this video and through the module and through the whole course actually, and that will help you to identify your USP and your positioning for your product in the market. So with that little introduction, let's get into the main presentation. And before we go into details of building a brand, I just want to cover briefly, you might have all heard of unique selling proposition and unique selling point, and how you should give your product a unique selling proposition. But you may not have heard of what I call the strategically positioned brand. So we've got USP versus SPB. Unique selling proposition versus strategically positioned brand. Now ideally, you need to have both of these and you've got a winning product on your hand if you've done your research. Now, for most people, choosing a niche, choosing a product is really difficult for most people. And why is that? Well, it's difficult because you think, well, I've found all these products and there's competition, and how can I beat the competition, and how can I make any sales? There's so much competition selling the same similar products already, and they get stuck. They get stuck at choosing a product, or they choose a product that's got lots of competition. But to be fair, if you're going to make some good sales off a product, it's going to have competition already because the markets are already flooded, and you need to find how to position your product in the market or in a niche with a unique selling proposition and with a strategically positioned brand. So you can sell any product, and if you have a unique selling proposition and it's a strategically positioned brand, you're going to make some sales and make a dent in that market on some level. So it doesn't matter what product you're selling. Okay, so some products will be easier to enter a market with than others because there'll be less competition. The important thing is to make your product unique. We'll talk more about how to strategically position your brand. Okay, other things we'll cover today are how to give your product a killer brand name. So in our brand development exercise, part of that will be choosing a brand name. We'll also be looking at designing your brand theme. We'll be looking at packaging design, manufacturing. We'll also be looking at how to implement brand harmonization for maximum impact. So by now you should have already selected a few products to work with in your research. So you want to be looking at a brand name, and we're going to be developing the whole brand theme here, but quickly I'm just going to talk about choosing a brand name and how you would do that. So how do you choose a suitable brand name? Well, it's totally up to you what your brand name is. You can choose a short name or a long name. Now short names are catchier and they're easier to remember and they roll off the tongue, and so short names are preferable. But longer names, they might be harder to remember, although you do have the opportunity to use a longer brand name if you feel it's necessary for your brand. This is your brand. You can do whatever you like. Although a short catchy name for me is usually preferable. You can even create totally new words just by combining several different existing words together. It could be a completely new made-up word. Now if you think of Coca-Cola, the Coca-Cola brand, Coca-Cola wasn't a word before they used it. Now there's a theory that Coca-Cola was derived from using the leaves from the cocoa plant, but Coca-Cola is a brand name that was totally made up from words that didn't exist before. But your brand name should represent what you're offering, and by combining words, joining words together, you can create product names as well as your brand name. So what's this process for doing this? Well, you can use a thesaurus, online thesaurus, type in a couple of words that describe your product, and gather a list of words that relate to the words that you've typed into the thesaurus. Gather a list, put them back into the thesaurus, and you can keep gathering even more words, and keep a list. Enter each word that's related to your original word into a thesaurus, and keep getting more and more related words until initially you come up with a large list of words. Now you can join parts of different words together and play around a little bit, see if you see anything that looks catchy. You can even use different languages for a twist. Think of like French names. French names are often used for like perfumes. They give it that luxurious, romantic feel. You can use other languages, Spanish, Italian, words that might suit your brand. And the obvious way is to collect a group of words and translate all your words using the Google Translate tool. And keep a growing list of words and keep trying different combinations of words and parts of words, and hopefully you'll come up with something that looks good and catchy to you. Now you don't need to use new words, new made up words. You can simply use a name that's not already been used. But be careful here, because you want to secure a new name that no one else has ever used before, if you can. Now to do that, and make sure you're not using a brand name that's already used, firstly you could secure a domain name. So go over to domain registrar and have a look what domains, see if your brand name hasn't been registered before. And you can also check the trademark database. That's the Intellectual Property Office database. Each government has one of these trademark databases. And you can go to the register your domain as soon as you can. And even if you're unable to set up a web page yet, it's a good idea to, if you've got a brand name that you like, get your domain name as soon as possible. For $10, you've got some protection there immediately if you buy a domain name. But don't worry too much about trademarks at this point, because we'll go into that in another total separate video, more in depth into trademarks and registering intellectual property. Okay, so choosing your brand name is a very important step, but before you do go ahead and decide on a brand name, here's something else you might want to include in your brand development process. And this includes choosing a brand theme. So you want to choose a theme for your product and a theme for your brand. And this is all about thinking about how do you want your brand to be perceived by the world. This is especially important if you go into a market where there's lots of other brands, because different groups of people tend to gravitate to different brands. And we gravitate to the brands that we particularly like as individuals. Just like there's many different groups of people out there, the brand themes are just as wide and diverse as the different groups of people. So you need to give your brand, and be thinking about giving your brand a theme. Now let's look at a few examples of what I mean here. So how will your brand be perceived? Now take these two simple products. They're simple t-shirts. Now any product I show you on these presentations, I'm not saying, hey, these are great products to private label. I'm using this as an example and a clear example of the psychology behind branding. So take these two ordinary t-shirts. They're just plain simple t-shirts, and they're both identical in what they do, i.e. their clothing, and they protect our bodies from the environment. Although the branding on each shirt is totally different. They're targeted to totally different groups of people. In fact, these two products, even though they're the same product, they could both quite happily sit on a shelf next to each other in a store and not be in competition with each other. It's because they target two completely different groups of people, or personality types. So I'm sure you can imagine somebody buying this t-shirt with the skull wouldn't really want to buy the same t-shirt as the t-shirt with the two cute puppies there. Somebody might, but it would be a very small percentage of people who would buy both of them to wear. I hope you see what I'm trying to get at here, is that they're both t-shirts and they're branded in totally different ways. You can do this with any product. So just like there are hundreds of thousands of products that you could choose to private label, you can multiply that opportunity by the number of target markets and brand themes that are out there. So there's how many products are there that you could choose to private label? Hundreds of thousands, I guess. I haven't counted them, but you know, that's what I'm guessing, at least. and then you can multiply every product by the number of brands and brand themes and target groups of people. And here's another example. You've got an iPhone case. It looks like a black leather sophisticated case that maybe your corporate type would use. I mean, when I talk about this, I'm talking about the ideal target market for this product. I mean, anybody could buy a black leather case, but the ideal target market, you think immediately luxurious, corporate, black, stylish, as opposed to this iPhone case that is totally at the other end of the spectrum. It's more of a cartoon character, comical, childlike, sort of happy-go-lucky style iPhone case. Now, they're both iPhone cases, and they both protect your iPhone, so they both have the same function. It's just they have different themes. And here are another two examples. You've got some kitchen utensils that are bright and colourful, and you've got some more kitchen utensils that look wooden and organic. Like in this example, it's a little more subtle, the differences, but they both do the same thing. They both have the same function. They're both themed totally differently. They're both targeted to different personality types. I'm sure if you had to choose between purchasing one set or the other, you'd have a preference. You might like them both, but ultimately you would choose one or the other, because you wouldn't want to buy both unless you had two houses and two kitchens. You wanted to put one in each, which is fair enough, but you might have one preference for one or the other. What I'm trying to say is that it doesn't mean to say that a brand couldn't encompass both sets and be the Home Depot of kitchen utensils. What I'm saying is your product could be themed individually for a particular brand. So the wooden utensils on the right might come under an umbrella of wooden dining set or wooden bowls, and incorporate that into a range. Okay, so that's a theme. So how do you choose your theme for your product? Well, you want to be asking yourself, who is your brand targeting? Who is the ideal prospect to buy your product? Now, it could be as diverse as many people there are out there, and groups of people. You just need to be thinking about who are you targeting, who are you designing your product for, and think of a character, think of a person, think of what that person looks like, think of what that person would be doing. Even though people are very diverse, when you're designing a product brand or theme or designing a product, if you don't have someone in mind to buy that particular product, then it's not going to appeal as much to a specific group of people. Now, you're probably thinking, well, if I design my product for one individual person, it's going to limit my sales. I want to be selling my product to lots and lots of people. But what you'll find is, if you target one specific group of people, that group of people is going to be the ideal customer. And that's a great beachhead to secure in the market. And once you have some attraction there and some momentum with your sales, that's going to draw other people from other groups. So, okay, when you're thinking about targeting your avatar, your brand avatar, don't think that you're only going to bring that customer into your brand. You're also going to attract other people from other groups far and wide. It's always better to target one group first, and it will attract more later on as your brand grows. So to choose your avatar then, in your market or your chosen niche, look at some of the other brands and think of the groups of people who they're targeting. Now, can you identify a missing brand where there might be a group of people in that niche and they don't have the ideal brand for them, for that group? And if you can identify that missing brand theme, and you think you can develop a brand and do a good job targeting that specific group of people for your chosen product, then that will be your chosen group of people. In fact, it would be a good idea to complete the brand design worksheet in this course and add a photographic representation of your target person. And this will be your ideal customer or your target avatar. And so every time that you work on your brand or your product, you can look at your brand design worksheet and always be thinking about your target customer. Now, this leads into brand archetypes. Now, this is a little more advanced, although it's worth mentioning here. And I originally heard this from a discussion between a guy called Glenn Livingston and his wife, Sharon Livingston. So this is a great concept, and credit to those guys for their discussion on brand archetypes. But just like your brand avatar identifies the ideal person who would buy your product, your brand archetype, on the other hand, describes who your brand is to that person. So imagine just for a moment, if your brand was a person, who would that person be? What would he or she look like? And who would that person be to your target customer, your target avatar? So you've got your target avatar and you've got your brand archetype. And we're talking about now the brand archetype. I'm using this image, I thought it might be a little bit of fun because it's from the Harry Potter movies. And here you can see different characters. So in the movie, they have like the brave one, the sarcastic one, the athletic one, the psychic one, shy one, forgetful one, lazy one, crazy one, the loyal one, the caring one, the smart one, the funny ones, etc., etc. The wise one. Okay? So when you're thinking about your brand archetype, think about a character. Think about how your brand will be the character to your ideal customer. Would your brand be a hero who saves the day? Or it might be a caring, supporting person. It might be an excited go-getter type person, or a fun, playful type. And it's okay to merge certain traits into your brand archetype. So it doesn't have to be just one archetype, it can be a combination of 2 or 3. By doing this exercise and deciding on your brand avatar and your brand archetype, you'll be designing your brand to be the ideal fit for your target group of people. Now, this is what separates the men from the boys when you're developing brands and products to sell out there. Most people just get a product and they'll stick a label on it and they'll say, this is my brand. But it doesn't really mean much. All it is a name. So by branding a theme, you really have a much better chance of dominating the market and building a loyal fan base for your brand. And whenever you're working on building your brand, you have this information available to you in the brand development worksheet that I keep referring to. You can use that. So it's also a good idea to have all this information at hand every time you work on your product. Now, I hope you'll stay with me and bear with me on this. In other videos, we'll go into looking at products and showing real-life examples. But I wanted to share this message because this is how you can really start winning with a product in a competitive market. So that's about branding. So let's move on now to adding value with packaging design. We'll talk about the types of different packaging, and that includes things like got tags, outer packaging, cartons and boxes. You've got stickers, which are self-adhesive labels, wrappers, bags, and bottles. And here's a short list of the types of packaging that you'll most likely come across when you decide to package your product. Remember that these packaging materials are simply some of the building blocks or the canvas for you to use to begin getting your brand message out there. So these are just some of the options that opened for you that you can use for your brand design. So let's look at how you'll begin applying your brand message and theme to your packaging material canvas. So in this section of the video, we're going to be talking about how to get value-added, professionally designed labels and packaging for more than just a few pennies. So to apply your brand theme to your packaging, some of the steps involved include finding a designer. If you're a creative person, you can create your own designs, although a good professional graphic designer will know how to format and prepare your graphic design ready to be applied and printed to your packaging. It's not simply just about the design itself, it's also about formatting the artwork to the manufacturer's specification. And some of the software used in the industry you might have heard includes software like Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, and there are others out there, but if I were you, I would leave it to the professionals. Usually the file types used by print shops are Illustrator, AI files, and these files are created print ready in Adobe Illustrator. On the other hand, Photoshop is used for the design side. Now, I consider myself a creative person. I feel I have an eye for design, although I'm not a trained graphic designer or pre-press designer, and so I never try to do that myself. These days you can hire these guys really cheap, so leave it to the professionals. Now, places you can find a designer, places like Elance, Qzx909designs.com. You could usually find a good designer on there at a very reasonable price to create your designs for you. You can also ask your designer to create your brand logo. Again, leave this design element to the professionals, but remember your brand avatar when you're thinking about choosing a logo. And also remember your brand archetype and your brand message. Of course, you'll want to be involved in the design process, but let the pros create the digital graphics for you, and you can guide them once you've got your brand theme down on paper. Now, you'll also need to provide your designers with a specification. So this might include an explanation of the style of the logo and the designs that you're looking for. For example, will your logo be a clean and simple logo, or will it be an organic floral logo, or will it have a more in-your-face hard edge appeal? And this is for you to decide during your brand development process. And you can use this brand development process that we've already discussed to help you get to this stage. You'll also want to choose your colours for your brand. Now, colours play an important part in your logo and packaging. Colours will affect your customer's perception and buying mood. And there's a downloadable cheat sheet in this course that talks more about how different colours can affect psychology and the perception of a brand. So that's available for you to download and use also when you're developing your brand. I'll talk a little bit more about colour palettes in a moment on the next slide. Now, packaging specifications, again, leave this to the experts. All you need to do is to be the messenger or the project manager. It's okay if you don't know all the terms of the industry yet, and we'll go over a few on the next few slides, but it's like any other industry. As in most industries, they all have their own terminology. And again, we'll go into some of that terminology on the next slide, but you don't need to worry about it. Approving the design. So, once you have a design ready, you'll usually be sent a copy of the design on a PDF document from your designer. Now, this is the approval process, and this is your only chance to make any small revisions and amendments to your design. Although to keep your designer happy, it's best if you can communicate any requirements up front and any changes or amendments to the design all in one go. Then you're not saying, yeah, I like this, but I wanted this, and then your designer goes away to do the work, and then he comes back and says, well, I've changed my mind, I'd like this better now. Although, to be fair, by this stage, you should have already got to see how your design was being progressed, and you should only need to make small amendments, if any. So when you're approving your design, try to think about your target customer, your avatar. Does this design look appealing to your customer? Does it fit with your brand? And does the packaging also include your store address? Make sure the customer can get back in contact with you and find out more about your brand. If you have a website address, obviously that goes on your packaging, preferably a .com domain address. Put the website on there, including your telephone and an email address. Make it easy for your customers to be one of your brand followers. So let's look at some pre-press terminology tips. And on this screen, we are going to talk about if your supplier or your designer needs specifications at all, then you'll need to be able to link between the two, passing the questions and messages between the two. Or if your designer is willing, you might be able to put your designer in touch directly with your manufacturer. And this will save you needing to be involved, although if you want to learn the ropes, it's also good to be involved. The more you do this, the easier it becomes. If you only take on board maybe 20% of what I'm showing you here, you'll already be way ahead of the pack. And I've found that by actually diving into a project head first with the determination of a pit bull to make the project happen one way or another, you're going to make it happen. Even if things seem a little new at first, you've got to be determined, you've just got to get stuck in there. Even if you don't know all the terms just yet. Because this isn't rocket science, it's actually quite straightforward. And especially once you've done it a few times. So here on this slide, you'll see some of the very common terminology used in the pre-press stages of manufacturing. And by pre-press, what I mean is any process that takes place before the actual manufacturing takes place. It's basically preparing for the manufacture, pre-press. So we've got some common terms here. We've got proof and approval. Now we've already talked about approval and proofs, but as we mentioned, a proof is a representation of your finished design. That's basically what all a proof is. And the approval is you simply signing off the design to state that you're happy with it. So there's no comeback later on to say that, oh, the manufacturer just printed 1,000 printed cartons and tags for me, but I'm not quite happy with this design. And if you've signed your name and you've already approved the design, then it's already too late, unfortunately. So it's important that you're very happy with the design before you sign it off for approval. Now, the term print ready, that simply refers to a digital file that contains the artwork and design, and the file has already been adopted to suit the manufacturer's machinery. There are many different types of printing presses out there, for example, and the specifications are all different. So after the digital design is approved, the artwork then needs to be prepared according to the manufacturer's machine specifications, and the manufacturer might even do this by themselves if they have an in-house artwork studio. But if not, then a good designer might be able to help you with this stage, basically formatting your digital artwork ready for the machine at the manufacturers. So between the two of them, either the manufacturer or the designer, between the two of them, they should be able to do this. It's usually the manufacturer who does it actually, or if they can't do it in-house, they will organize it, because they have all the specifications for their machines. But that's basically the term print ready. So the next term is PMS colours. That's Pantone Colour Palette, and the Pantone colours for short refers to the most common industry standard for colour matching. If you've ever used Adobe Photoshop before, you might also have seen the Pantone Colour Palette as an option to choose for selecting colours. Now there are books that are available called Pantone books, showing all the different swatches of the colours, all the different Pantone colours. And each one is numbered. Each colour is given a PMS 1, 2, 3, 4, for example, a different number. And these books are expensive to get hold of, and you don't really need one. I'm basically just talking about the terminology here on this slide, so you don't need to buy the book, but it'd be good if you could understand the terminology. And the reason these colour swatches are used and standardised is because if you want to communicate colours between different designers, different manufacturers, etc., then the universal Pantone colour book, you can just state the number of the reference of the colour, and everyone will know which colour it is. Another term used is substrate. Now substrate is simply an industry term for the material that will be used in your packaging to receive the printed design. So a substrate could be paper, it could be card, it could be the card to make your cartons, to make your tags, etc., to make your labels, etc., etc. And lastly, on this slide, there are different print types that are used. We've got letterpress, silkscreen, flexographic, gravure, lithographic or offset, it's the same thing, litho and offset, and digital printing. Now, I don't really need to go into detail about these different print methods, although it's just the terminology. It'd be nice to familiarize yourself with it. If you can put these in your arsenal of private label information when you're contacting suppliers and graphic designers, know some of these terms, you're going to be ahead of the pack. Letterpress is the most commonly used print method, as is offset and litho is very similar. And also silkscreen you might encounter. Silkscreen is silkscreen puts down a lot of ink. It leaves a textured feel, and it's often used for t-shirt printing, fabric printing, things like that as well. Okay, so that's just a little look at the different terminology. And again, terminology might differ slightly when dealing with overseas manufacturers due to the translation barrier, although if the company has dealt with English-speaking designers and packaging manufacturers before, then they'll know what you're talking about. So don't worry about dealing with suppliers in China and Asia. They might not have even use these exact terms. Some will and some won't, so don't worry about it. And from my years of travelling throughout Asia, one thing I've learned is that as long as you're a good customer, they'll love your business. And you could be speaking double Dutch for all they care. They're looking for good customers, and most won't be able to speak perfect English, but they'll certainly appreciate your custom. And if you're a good customer, and then that's going to go a long way. It doesn't matter if you're using terminology they don't understand to begin with, as long as you can communicate somewhere or other and get across what you want and need, and that'll go a long way. And just while we're on the subject of suppliers from overseas, China, etc. Now, in another video I talk about how you should get a good deal and haggle and get the best for your business, and you should certainly do that. You should certainly try and haggle and make sure you get a great deal. But you've got to remember, if you can be fair to the supplier and you're not driving their profits down to almost zero, because remember, those guys have got families to feed as well. And even though you should get the best deal you can, you've got to be thinking, well, you know, I've got a good deal on this. I know I can make good profit. You know, I'm happy with the price I've got already. I'm not going to push him to drive it really down now because I want to build my relationship up with this supplier. You know, and sometimes if you try and drive the price down too much, then the supplier isn't going to want to work with you as much as maybe another customer they have who's paying a little bit more. So there's a trade-off when you're getting cheaper prices. You know, you want to try and build up a relationship, especially with the guys in China as well and in different countries overseas, because they can usually get better deals from other companies. If you have a good relationship with a wholesaler guy in China and is supplying you with one private label product from a manufacturer, then if you wanted to look around for other products, you can ask this guy, you know, if he'd be interested in searching for you. If he's a middleman, not if he's a manufacturer, but if he's a guy on the internet who's advertising on behalf of the manufacturer, then if you've got a good relationship, he can obviously secure better deals than a foreign overseas person can. So it's good to have a local contact in different countries, someone who you trust and who you've got a good relationship with. So I went off the subject there a little bit because we were looking at pre-press terminology, but I just thought I'd mention that as well. That might be something that will be useful as well. Okay, so the next part is getting it manufactured. So again, just like your designer creates your designs for you and your artwork, your manufacturer will be able to physically make the packaging. And if your manufacturer doesn't do this in-house, then he will probably know someone who does, because obviously he's already sourcing the packaging for his existing products and his existing customers. And you'll only supply packaging materials at any point if you're trying to do something that little bit unusual. Even then, your manufacturer will probably be able to source the packaging for you. But for your first product, I'd tend to keep it simple and use the stock packaging that your manufacturer is already using, and just simply rework the design, rework the print on the packaging. Now, when you become more proficient at this and more confident, you can certainly go into sourcing other packaging, but then you need to spend more time in the development process and making sure the packaging is fit for use, fit for purpose, etc. But do this in conjunction with your manufacturer, and he will probably be able to help you with things like that. If your product supplier creates the packaging in-house, or as an established packaging manufacturer working with them, then leave it in their good hands, because they've done it all before. Now, another option, and this might be applicable to things like handcrafted products, and for some very, very simple packaging that only comprises of maybe a simple sticker on its own, some like home crafts, things that you could probably do yourself at home. Although this type of packaging doesn't usually add much value, it won't add as much value as a professionally created packaging. And there's an entire industry around packaging and design, so don't try and do it at home yourself unless it's something very basic, very simple, stick a sticker over something. But let the professionals do the packaging design. These guys are cheap these days to look for graphic designers. You can go on Elance, look for graphic designers in Eastern Europe. I mean, you can probably find graphic designers everywhere, but I've had a good experience with those guys in Eastern Europe. And as we've already mentioned before, get a packaging specialist to do it for you. And this might be a manufacturer or your designer, and you could even find a project manager if you wanted to, just like I was to Unilever and L'Oreal and other brands, and someone who can handle the entire process for you. Now, these specialist kind of people should already know about brand development and ask you all the right questions that need to be asked before proceeding to packaging design and procurement. Okay, so that's packaging specialist. And of course you can gather or research materials that you already like packaging materials, and show the manufacturer. You can buy samples and get samples from the manufacturer. If you're doing it from overseas or anywhere really, I always tend to buy the samples. I don't like to say, hey, give me something for free, because these guys have seen it all before. People get stuff for free and they'll lose the product, they'll lose the custom, no one ever comes back. So I like to buy the samples, and then they know that you're serious, they know you're a good customer. And if you've got the right mindset, is that you're going to make a lot of money doing this, because you're going to make it work, then to buy the sample products shouldn't be anything that you should have to worry about. And You can approve the materials that are already used for the packaging on the existing products. You can actually feel them in your hands, and you want to check that it's good quality. If it's flimsy card or packaging, you want to ask the manufacturer, look, this isn't suitable for use. Can you source a more durable packaging, a thicker substrate, things like that? Or use a glossy substrate. Can you use gloss or matte, a matte finish, and things like that. So if you get a sample, you can definitely approve the materials in your hands. So that gives you a brief overview of packaging and design and manufacturing. So the next thing to look at is brand harmonization. Brand harmonization. Okay, so this is all about keeping your brand harmonized across the whole range. Keep it in the family. So by this I mean that you'll want to harmonize your brand message across all of your products, all your packaging, your ads, your website, and anywhere that your brand goes. Ideally, your brand should be sending out the same message. This is so that your brand will have maximum impact when you keep your message the same throughout your entire brand building campaign. You want to standardize the colors across products and ranges. Now, you don't have to use the same products, but they need to work well with each other. Again, we've already discussed colors, and we have another cheat sheet on that separate to this video. Although, choose colors that work in conjunction with each other. Again, a designer should be able to guide you and help you by matching colors and harmonize them across ranges. So you've got ranges should be aimed at one group of people versus a brand that can encompass several ranges. But you want to keep them in the family, keep them the same, keep ranges harmonized, and they want to be sending out a very similar message, if not the same message. So you want to keep your message the same or similar. Now, if you've got a range of products, usually keep the same message. Your brand will have a message, but then underneath that brand you might have ranges or segments targeting or different categories of people. Usually your brand will have one message, your ranges will have a similar message underneath your umbrella brand, and each of those ranges needs to be harmonized. So sending out the same message, sending out the same colors for packaging, the same quality. You know, you don't want one really good high-end quality product and then one really poor quality product, no frills version, in the same range. So you can understand why the message needs to be consistent and harmonized. So to summarize then, everything we've just talked about basically is encompassing your brand for your first product, and that includes your brand name, choosing a brand theme, which is basically your target avatar and your ideal customer, and you also will be looking at who your brand is to that customer. That's your brand archetype, and who your brand will be to your ideal customer. We've looked at harmonizing your brand, and when you extend ranges, when you add new products and line extensions, choose products that fit into the range or under the umbrella brand. Leverage design professionals. You don't need to know everything about packaging and graphic design. All you need to do is you need to know some of what we've talked about today, and you'll be off to a flying start. And use a professional's knowledge. They're there to help you. They're very low cost these days. So you can use professionals to maximize your brand impact, spread your message far and wide, and to make an impact that your brand will deserve after you've committed time and effort in developing your brand. And have fun doing this, you know. The more time and effort you put into brand development and researching your niche and how your brand can fit into your niche, the more time you're going to save later on. Because if you don't do this exercise, you could get 3 or 4 products, brand them, and put them out there, just trying to hope for the best, really. And you might be disappointed in 6 months' time when they don't make any sales. You might be very lucky, and some of them might work. But the more time you put into this development process of thinking about your ideal customer, designing a brand for that customer specifically, and then you're going to have more chance of success. Now, if you're a creative person like I am, you should definitely enjoy this process of packaging. You'll obtain experience as you're doing it, as you've done it a few times. Plus, if you get this right, you'll own and profit from your brand that you've created for years to come. And that is certainly something to be proud of. So, I hope this information has been useful to you, and signing off for now, I'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Okay, so it's one thing to know how to find a niche and decide on your niche. Decide on 3 or 4 products that you want to bring to this stage and to find a designer to create custom packaging for you. You've also looked at how to create your brand avatar and your brand archetype, but how do you develop a product and develop your packaging to really stand out from the crowd and have a point of difference? So in this short video, we'll look at packaging and product development secrets to delight your customers and exceed their expectations. So in a moment from now, we're going to look over my shoulder and we want to be looking for the point of difference benefits from Amazon reviews. You can also make your product unique by developing whole ranges, packages or kits to bundle together. So that's instead of selling one product on its own, package the product with a bundle, maybe 2 or 3 products together as one, and sell it as one pack. This way you could also sell the products as individual items and sell the kit and bundle as well. And the customers who only buy the single items, you can cross-sell the other products or upsell the kit. And also remember, for every product out there, there's going to be a budget version, there's going to be a mid-range price version and a high-end version, and they will be priced to suit. And you can decide if your product is going to be a budget, mid-range or a high-end product. Let's have a look at a few of these points now as look over my shoulder at a few examples. Okay, in this spreadsheet I've just listed a few example products that we'll look at as we're going through the course. So let's take the first example of being a yoga mat, and let's look at some of how we can use reviews to really find out the point of difference benefit for our product that we're going to private label and brand. So this looks like a yoga mat, just a standard yoga mat, but on it the difference is it's got a really nice design printed on it, and it comes in a nice packaging tube rolled up like that, and it's got 776 reviews. So for the purpose of this exercise, we're going to look at the reviews. Now the Amazon reviews are a wealth of knowledge for when you're developing your product. If you look at a product, a similar product or a product in your category with a lot of reviews, so we can see here it's got a lot of 5-star reviews and 4-star, that's really good. But it's got 1-star reviews and 2-star reviews. Now this is natural, it's a natural curve that any product will have. It's always going to have some people who dislike the product, even though the majority of the people love the product with 5-star reviews. Now we can use this database of feedback and comments. This is basically consumer research. So these are the feedback comments from the consumers who have already purchased the product. We can look at what they're saying. First of all, I'll look at some of the 5-star reviews. So click on the 5-star reviews, and obviously Amazon will show you the good reviews and the bad reviews. So what we want to be looking for is any commonalities between the positive points and the negative points, and we want to make a note of those comments and benefits and work them into our product if possible. So it's attractive, comfy and sticky. So if you're developing a yoga mat, these are good points: attractive, comfy and sticky. Let's have a look at the next review. Extreme yoga, someone who does extreme yoga. So this is a real yoga enthusiast. Outdoors and in the sand. Work great. The smell is like any other brand new plastic. As for it losing its grip after the sand session, all I needed to do was wash it with soap and water and it regained its grip. I had to leave this mat behind to a friend because I was moving out. Okay, so what I would do, I would copy and paste all the good points into a document and use these positive points for when you're sourcing your product. You want to ensure that your product is covering all these points. It's easy to roll up and carry. If it were thicker, it would be cumbersome and awkward to roll and carry. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're looking for your new product. Received a lot of compliments on its first time when I brought it to the yoga class because of its bright colours. Okay, so that's great. So already we know that someone going to a yoga class full of other people who follow and do yoga, they like bright colours, bright designs. So that's a positive, the design. Here we go. It isn't ridiculously thin as some of our other reviews suggest. It's just an average yoga mat, no different from any other I have ever used. If you are looking for an extra thick mat, then perhaps this isn't the mat for you. So right away, I'm thinking, right, if I sell yoga mats, I'm going to have point of difference being the colours, the thicknesses of different mats. I also read about the tree design flaking off. Okay, so that's another thing to watch out for. The design, if it's flaking off, is that because of how it's been printed onto the mat? Can we get a better print process? You can see how these reviews really come in handy. Right, so let's have a look at some of the negative reviews. So if you can cover these main points, if you go through all the reviews, or at least a good handful of them, and pick out some points that are common between what everyone's saying is good about the product. You want to make sure you include those good points in your product. Consumer research costs the big companies a lot of money. This is done for free. You're just simply using Amazon reviews. Let's have a look at some of the negative reviews. Okay, I've had the mat for 3 months, used it 3 to 4 times a week for a 1-hour class, and it's falling apart, coming into pieces all over, and now on my clothes. I have never had this happen with a mat, and I have 3 other ones. Okay, so that looks like they're referring to how the design is printed onto the mat. Okay, so that's some good research there. We want to make sure that if we develop a yoga mat, that the print doesn't flake off even after being rolled up and used. Something to communicate to the manufacturer. Upon purchasing the mat, I was very pleased, loving the design and stickiness. Again, the design and the stickiness is coming up. Only been doing yoga for 5 months, my mat is already stretching. Okay, that's another point of difference. If you can come up with the ultimate durable yoga mat that has really nice designs, that the design doesn't flake off, and you can offer it in different thicknesses, you can see where I'm getting at here. You can see where you can really make a dent in a market by covering all the negative points and all the positive points from Amazon reviews. I should have done some research first before I bought the mat. I just paid full price for the mat at the retail location. I'm very disappointed. When I plant my hands down for a pose, I don't expect my hands to start slipping. So it has to be sticky. It has to be a sticky mat. Pretty but slippery. Colour fades. Again, the same comments. So the design, the print, how it's printed onto the mat, and the stickiness. So these negative reviews, obviously when you're selling on Amazon, we don't like to see negative reviews on our own products. But you can certainly use the negative reviews that people have left. These are really important. If you're going to be going in and competing with a product, these are really important to understand what people don't like about the products that are already on the market. The yoga mat seems perfect, except that it begins falling apart after the first time. My yoga class. So imagine if you could come up with the perfect yoga mat, and these guys take it to their yoga classes. Everyone is saying wow, and all the big guys in the yoga class are then looking for the same kind of mat. You create your brand around the ideal yoga mat, the durable, nice designs, different thicknesses, sticky. If you can get all these points covered, and you can find a manufacturer to do this for you, and you may be thinking, well, how can we find a manufacturer to do that for us? But these are the challenges that you offer the manufacturer. You say to the manufacturer, look, this is what we're looking for. We're prepared to pay a few pounds more, a few dollars more, and you offer the perfect yoga mat for double or treble the price that these guys are offering their yoga mat. And you advertise it as such. You shout out and point out, look, we've got the best yoga mat in the market. Okay? Give the challenges back to your manufacturer. You do the research. Let them handle the challenges of manufacturing. Okay, so what else have we got? So we can get the idea here. Just a random listing I brought up. All of a sudden, we've already picked out the point of difference benefits. So I didn't know anything about yoga. I don't do yoga, but all of a sudden I know that if we're going to sell a yoga mat, we want something that's durable. We want something that's sticky and keeps its stickiness. We want nice designs that are printed with a printing process that doesn't flake or doesn't become distorted after it's been rolled up. We want durable mats. We want maybe in different thicknesses. You see, I've just spent less than 5 minutes looking at Amazon reviews, and already I've picked out the 5 major point of differences that we need to cover if we were developing our own yoga mat or asking a manufacturer to do it for us. We package it up, we get the 3D designer to create a brilliant packaging, and we get it advertised on Amazon 3 times the price, and we start shouting in our listing and our marketing that we've got the best on the market. And we price it as such. Okay, so we're pricing it at a premium product. Again, if you're entering as a budget product or as a mid-range product, you'd probably say, well, we've covered 2 out of the 5 major point of differences, but that's why we're priced as we are. We're a budget brand, we've got great designs, the mat keeps its grip for maybe 6 months guaranteed, but only 6 months, hence the price, but we do guarantee it for 6 months or 12 months, etc. Things like that. So it's really worth looking at Amazon reviews to find the point of difference benefits for your products. Okay, so that's using Amazon reviews. Develop packages, kits to bundle, cross-sell and upsell, and budget, mid-range and high-end. So we've already touched on this, but I just want to show you an example of kits or bundling to cross-sell and upsell. Let's have a look at an example. So in our example spreadsheet then, let's have a look at the examples here I put under bundle. So first of all, let's have a look at an argan oil product that's standalone. It's sold as it on its own. So this looks like an oil product that is used for health and beauty, skin, hair and nails. A nice product image. To be honest, it looks like a 3D graphic. It's not a photograph. You can see someone here is using and has got a 3D representation of it on the shelf like that. And that's not a photograph, it's a 3D image. It's got 588 reviews. Now we could probably use this as a good example of a product listing we'll talk about shortly. Although this guy is selling this argan oil as a standalone private label product in a standard bottle. He's having it filled with argan oil. He's got his own brand and label on there, and that's how he's selling this product and getting a ton of sales with the looks of it. If he's got 588 customer reviews. Let's have a look how someone else is selling argan oil, but they're selling it as a bundle. So they're selling 4 products together here. Again, it's only got a few reviews, but it's been sold as a set. Usually you don't get as many reviews for the set because the products, if they're being sold individually, people tend to leave the reviews on the individual products. But that's fine. You're just upping the price here, $50 for the entire set. Because the same seller, if we look at his brand, click on his brand link, Agadir is called. So he's selling all these argan oil. So it looks like he's got a brand for argan oil. So he's selling the products individually. But he's also selling the products as a set and as a bundle. So he's upping the price point there. Maybe offering a little discount. But the overall profit is gaining. He's saving on shipping the products individually. Packaging them up as a kit or a set. And he's upping the price there. So anyone who's tried these individual products and really likes them, they might come back and think, well, I'll get the set this time. Okay, or you can even contact the customer to sell your set to afterwards, once you understand that the customer has enjoyed the original product. Hi, it's Tom, and in this short video I'm going to just outline my private label toolkit, and this is the exact same toolkit and the tools of the trade that I personally use to develop new private label products. In the Proven Private Label course, this will provide you with all the fundamental information that you'll need to kickstart your private label product empire. In this short cheat sheet, you'll also see the tools of the trade that I personally use to develop new packaging and products for private label. Now, you definitely don't need to use these tools, although I wouldn't want you to feel like I'm not showing you every detailed step. So here's the exact toolkit that I use. Now, you don't need to go and buy these tools right away. I don't want you to be that guy or gal who wants to learn fishing and then goes and buys all the best equipment and goes fishing for the first time, doesn't catch a fish, and then all the equipment goes to waste. So really you need to be making some money off of your business before you start reinvesting into tools. But I'm showing you this for the purpose of I want you to understand everything that I do to develop the private label products. That's why I'm showing you this. But firstly, what you could invest in is just a few dollars, is a steel rule. Now this is the most important tool in my private label toolbox. It's simply a common steel ruler, and you're likely to find one of these in every good designer's and packaging manufacturers, operators, desk drawer. These come in really handy, and I find them easier to use than the cheap plastic ones that don't have hard edges. And at some point you'll be required to measure packaging specifications, or even if you print a proof that you receive from your designer or your manufacturer, you want to print it out to size on a laser printer, if you have a laser printer, and then measure your design and packaging on the proof. And you can also measure areas where barcodes might go and things like that. So one thing I can't do without is my steel rule. So for a few dollars, that'd be a great investment. Obviously, you can use a cheap plastic one, that's no issue, but I prefer the steel one. Next up in my toolbox is the Pantone color swatch book. Now these are quite expensive. You're talking at least a few $100s for a new one. You might pick up a second-hand one on eBay for maybe around $50, but you don't really need one. The bottom line is you don't need one. Your graphic designer and your packaging manufacturer will probably use these because they're doing their designing on a daily basis, and that's their business. You don't really need one. As long as you can look at the proof and print a proof that the designer supplies to you, and you're content that the printer that you're using is a true lifelike color representation of what you're going to be seeing on your final packaging, you don't really need to use one. But this is something I keep, and especially if you're doing this longer term over numerous years, you might consider investing in a Pantone color book. But you definitely don't need one. The third thing I use is a printer's eyeglass. And again, you won't need this, but if you really are serious and passionate about packaging and brand building like I am, then you might find you investing in a magnifying glass at some point. And as you learn more about the print specifications and the printing methods and techniques, this is something that you'll see in every print shop, every packaging shop, is that for a few dollars it's a little eyeglass. Again, you definitely don't need one. This is simply just outlining the tools that I use. The next tool in my private label toolbox is the handheld barcode scanner. I simply use a low-cost USB plug-and-play scanner. You might have used one of these already if you're already sending product to Amazon FBA and you're applying their barcodes. I use one of these to not only help with sending stuff to FBA, I also use one to check that any barcodes that are printed on the packaging that they actually scan. I do this before they actually, I do this directly from the printed proof. So if the manufacturer sends me a proof and I've given my barcode number to apply, then I will print off the proof at 100% size from a really good laser printer, and then I'll check that the barcode scans. It's important not to try and check a barcode if you're using an inkjet printer, because inkjet just doesn't print the barcode accurately. So it has to be a laser printed barcode. You can use a plug and play cheap low cost handheld barcode scanner. I think $20 I paid for mine. It just plugs straight into a computer and it's plug and play. Open a Word document and off you go. You can scan the barcodes, and you can certainly check the barcodes that have been printed onto any packaging that you might be sourcing. So that's very useful. And the final important tool that I use is the barcode label printer. Again, you probably come across these if you are sending inventory to Amazon FBA. I sometimes use one to print if I'm sending inventory to different points of sale. Sometimes I do need to use different barcode numbers, and so I will, in this instance, I'd use a barcode label printer to print the barcodes and to have those supply those to the manufacturer, who can then cover up the barcodes that are already printed on the packaging. So that's just a short video to outline the 5 important tools that I use in my private label toolbox. I hope this has been useful. Thanks.